views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Russell. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. I am a psychic intuitive who's been reading tarot cards for over 25 years. I'm also Reiki certified. Join me as I read cards, share intuitive messages, promote healing, and much, much more. Hi, everyone. It's Caitlin from the Healing Light Podcast. Hope all is well. Before I get to today's topic with a wonderful guest, I just wanted to remind everyone that you can find my podcast, the Healing Light Podcast, on the Spreaker app, which is a free app, or anywhere you find your podcast. If you have any feedback for the show, a guest you'd like to hear from, any topics, please feel free. I am on Facebook under the Healing Light NH. You can also email me at the Healing Light 1, that's the Healing Light number 1 at gmail.com. For my social media, you can find me on Instagram at the Healing Light NH, kind of on TikTok, same deal, and I don't do action. But you'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, mostly Facebook, Instagram. So thank you very much to Paranormal Buzz Radio and Shay for assisting with recording tonight. So I'm very excited to have Elizabeth on. So Elizabeth Kipp is going to share her journey through her chronic pain, and we're going to talk about what chronic pain means and how we navigate that and how we can actually heal. I loved her book, The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power, and we'll get right to it. So, Elizabeth, thank you for being on the Healing Light Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm honored to be able to talk to you today and to address your audience and to share your podcast with my audience. This is great. We get to cross-pollinate with each other. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. So before I get to your book, which it was an amazing read, very easy, had a lot of points, and I took a lot of notes for myself too. I wanted to ask you, in terms of chronic pain, what is chronic pain? How is that different from a pain that you might get, like if you stub your toe or something like that? And how does it affect our lives? And we'll talk about methods to overcome it in a bit, but like, how big of an impact does it have?
Okay, those are 3 questions. But I'll start with the first one, and we could spend the whole hour on that, but we won't. Chronic pain, just for the audience, is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, it all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts. So the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart. It's all the same pain, right? So that's our working definition. Most people think it's just physical, but it's so much more, right? The nervous system, the brain sees it as so much more. So kind of what's the difference between stubbing your toe and chronic pain? We have a mechanism in the nervous system, in the brain, called the stress response. And it activates when we need to fight, flight, freeze, shut down, those kinds of things. And it comes on, and as soon as we've taken care of whatever the problem was, it goes off again. It resets down to normal. In chronic pain, that stress response stays in the on position and doesn't come back to normal. And we're not made really for that. We're not made for chronic, our nervous system, our biology is not made for chronic pain, for chronic stress. We're made for this on-off kind of situation, not for when it gets stuck in the on position. So understanding that chronic stress, chronic pain are similar in the brain in terms of the stress on the nervous system. The other part of it is that in chronic pain, there's already in regular healthy humans, there's a slight negative bias. So we're for the threat, just kind of in the background. Our first answer is no to something new, something unfamiliar. Our first answer is no, and then just kind of from a very primal place to keep us safe, and then then we can bring it to the prefrontal cortex, and we can sort out, is this new thing, is it going to be safe or not, right? And we can decide yes or no. But the first answer is always no, which is referencing the back, older, ancient part of the brain. And in the chronic pain experience, because the stress response is in the on position all the time, that negativity gets fired up and magnified. So we become, our whole kind of demeanor changes, where we see the world in a more threatening way, like you're a threat, everything out there is a threat. And we'll also turn that in on ourselves, and now I'm a threat to myself. So it's this, we're really not made for this kind of a situation. You can see how damaging that is, that it's so stressful on the body. We're really not made for those kinds of stressors long term. It's an interesting way to put it, because when you say we're not made for it, because for myself, I didn't know of what chronic pain was until I had chronic pain. And to me, it seems like you're right, like a fairly new concept. And what also just kind of gives me the light bulb moment is it's not just physical pain, but it's mental pain. It's any kind of pain, really. And so that makes a whole lot of sense. So let me dive into your book. It's any kind of pain that lasts for 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's good to know. Okay.
Yeah, it's like any pain. There's pain, and then there's acute pain, which comes and goes, like I stubbed my toe, and then there's chronic pain. Any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, that's chronic. And when it gets to the chronic point, the brain is changed by that, and the ways that the brain is changed is this pronounced negativity in the mind, in our attitude. The emotional center in the brain gets affected, and so we have this negative spin. We turn it towards others. We turn it towards ourselves, and also there's a lot of chaos that is created in the brain. So we can't think straight, but we're so reactive. We're up in this activated mode all the time, and you have real difficulty accessing executive thinking when you're fired up all the time. It's kind of contrary to the way we're wired.
Yeah, absolutely. So that absolutely 100% resonates with me. I didn't, when I would think about my pain, or really, I have a friend who has, I know a few people with chronic pain issues. You don't think that it imprints itself on the brain. I didn't make that connection. And the way you explained it totally makes sense, because I know from experience that when when I'm in pain, my whole world gets fuzzy. I can't concentrate. It affects head to toe. So that makes perfect sense to explain it that way. So it's chronic pain, and it literally like affects your brain. So
well, think about it for a moment. Think about it for a moment. Mm-hmm. The brain is this highly adaptable organ. It's this amazingly, it's just quite an interesting, fascinating, powerful, human machine. It's constantly adapting to its environment. So if a chronic pain signal is coming in, it's going to adapt to that. And it adapts the best that it can, given the way it's made. And because we're really not, evolutionarily speaking, we're really not made for chronic stress. We're made for, stress and then calm down, stress and then calm down kind of thing. But we're not made for the stress to be in the on position. And so, because the brain's constantly adapting to current circumstances, we call that plastic. It changes all the time. Well, chronic pain will change the brain. And the way we heal from that is we heal the changes that are made in the brain, and medication doesn't do that. We actually have to make behavioral changes. We have to kind of change our environment and change how we're thinking in order to change the brain, to affect change back in the brain. So the brain is really a reflection of kind of what's happening in our environment and what we're making it mean. And so that's a perspective that's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about healing. One of the first things that stood out, and is right in the beginning of the book, is the healing field. And you said there's a promise of the healing field. So what is the healing field, and what does that mean for us?
Well, I love that you brought that in right after what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Again, the brain is this highly adaptable machine, and we have unless we're actually dying, which, most of us will have that experience at some point, but most of us are not, right? Mm-hmm. So we have this incredible healing machine, intelligence in the body. And so we want to realize that, and we want to understand that when does healing happen? It happens in the now. Just like the brain is assessing what's happening now, and it adapts to that circumstance very quickly. So we have to take responsibility for the now and what we're bringing to the now, because that's where healing happens. Healing doesn't happen in the past or the future. It happens now. And one of the issues that we have in the chronic pain experience is that we lose track of the present moment because we're constantly comparing our current experience to the past, and then projecting about what's going to happen to us in the future, and we kind of miss what's happening in the present moment because we're time tripping, and we miss the present, which is where the healing is.
That to me is one of the most profound things I've ever heard, because I know that makes so much sense about we think that, okay, this has happened in the past, so it's bound to happen in the future. So, which brings me to something else that kind of stood out that was kind of like a gotcha moment or aha moment for me is you talk about being who is responsible for your healing. And so when you think about when you have pain or chronic pain, you think that you're relying on your doctors, your orthopedic doctor, your spine doctor, whatever doctor. But you say it actually has to begin with you. Is that correct?
Well, it's both. It's just a matter of what's the proportion there. So I love that you brought that in. It's so important. I remember my experience of chronic pain for most of the 40 years I was in it was it's doing it to me. And I didn't feel like I had any power over it. It was just, so I fought with it all the time. It's like, I'll fight. I'm not really good at that. And thank goodness I had that in my, in my genetics, that I can be that, tough. But oh my God, we really don't have to do that. I just didn't know any better. But when I got with in the pain management program with Dr. Peter Prescott, who, since we're here, who wrote this beautiful book, Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind-Body Approach, which is a beautiful companion to my book. When I got into his pain management program, he asked this question. He said, what are you doing to contribute to your pain? And I was, brand new in his classroom, and there's 20 other people in the room that are also in chronic pain. And my response in my mind, I didn't say anything, but in my mind was like, I can't believe he just asked a whole room full of chronic pain patients, what are they doing to contribute to their, what the hell kind of question is that?
Wow, yeah, I'd be like, what? Get out of here.
The pain is doing it to me. And like, what's the deal here? And that was the first, my trigger response to that question. But, he was the doctor in the room, and I, was there open and, hoping to learn something I didn't know. And I realized in that moment, oh my God, it's possible that, like, I'm actually doing something to contribute to my own pain. Just by asking that question, he's opening this door into the possibility that maybe something I'm doing is contributing to the pain I'm experiencing. And in that moment, I went from complete victimhood to my pain to empowerment, feeling like I actually have, some power here where I didn't realize I had any. Right? That was really powerful. That's where the seed to that got started, was in that little moment where he brought that in, and I realized after I sat there for a minute. He said, the next thing he said, which was equally as powerful, was, don't judge the moment. And I thought total chronic pain, victim-y mode. The thing that went through my mind was, dude, I'm just sitting here minding my own business, trying to figure out my space in this place. I didn't know anybody in the room. Minding my own business. I'm not doing anything, he's like, I just didn't think I was doing anything. And I didn't think I was judging anything at all. And then all of a sudden I realized, this is all going through my mind in about 3 seconds. Then I realized, oh my goodness, I've been judging my pain as bad my whole life. I've been judging my pain as bad all my life. And so when I'm having a pain experience, my attitude is I have to fight with this thing because it's bad. And so he's saying, don't judge the moment, and I'm judging my pain. He meant my pain by the moment. He meant the pain. Because my first experience was like, well, I'm not judging anything. I'm just sitting here listening to you. But he meant my pain. And I was like, oh, my goodness. No wonder that's how that was the beginning of me understanding that's how I'm contributing to my pain, by just labeling it as a bad experience. Where pain is actually, when you come to it from a straight up clinical kind of, biological system, and I have a biology background, biological system approach, it's just information in the system. It's not good or bad, it just is, and it's information. And the question is, what are you going to do with the information? Well, I had spent all those years, calling it bad and fighting with it. That's what I was doing with the information, where really it's just the body giving you a signal that you need to do something different.
I really like you said power. Because one of the big things that I think people don't realize is when you have pain, when you have a lot of mental health issues, whatever issues you might have, you might feel powerless, feel completely submissive, whatever's going on. And I want to be like your biggest cheerleader and say, yeah, but you can do that. You can, I always say, you can take back your power. So you feel like you lost your power, you can take back your power. So when you say that you're responsible for your healing, mean what that means, hearing you right, that you can take back control and take back power. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we have to be a little bit, for me, I'd have to be careful about what I meant by those words, but when I, and I'll put it in the context of what we were talking about, when I feel like that I'm the victim of the pain and it's doing it to me, then I've lost any power. I have no purchase in that landscape. I've got no grounding. I'm just at its whim.
Yeah.
Oh, what Dr. Prescott brought in was like, well, you have a role in this. Your reaction to the pain alone of right, that's just adding to the fire, So the question is, can I be careful here, because it's very difficult to teach this. I can kind of speak about it, and people can I can try and create an opening so people can have an experience of it. But it's very hard I feel like it's hard to teach. So I'm having an experience of a lot of sensation in the body. Let's just take the pain word out of it and call it a lot of an intense sensation. And it's a signal from the body saying, like, whatever you're doing right now, do something different, because, we're in healing mode. And, if you keep doing this, you're going to be moving in a more destructive direction.
Gotcha.
So the idea there is to not fight the pain. And that's, I just said something very profound. Don't fight the pain. When our first really instinct is to fight it. For many reasons, and I could get into that later, but our first instinct is really just like, we don't like it, and we're going to get an attitude, and I'm going to fight it. Right? So I discovered, after I went through Dr. Peter's program, I had and had learned all his tools and everything. I had a chance to practice them. I came home, and I woke up one morning, and I had a headache. Something like a muscle in my neck had gone, spasmed or something. I had this massive headache. And I kind of went from asleep and everything was fine to awake and like there was a 10-alarm fire going off in my head. And I had enough space in my consciousness to kind of watch my reaction. And this is what I did. Oh my God, I'm in pain. So, first of all, it's a freak out. First thing, freaked out. Second thing, I remember when I had this before, because it was familiar to me. Third thing I did was, I got to see my chiropractor to get my neck back together, and wow, what happened there, right? First thing was, I experienced a sensation. I had a judgment about it. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. So I judged it as bad, which is my old habit. We all do it. And then the next thing I did was I referenced the past and I got out of the present moment. I went immediately to the past and compared it and freaked out again. So I just added more pain into the whole situation. I just added more negative pain into it. And then I disempowered myself by saying, I got to go see a doctor to help me with this, thinking like I have no power here. It's got me, right? So I went into this old habit, and I happened to see myself do that. And I realized, wow, I'm just freaking myself out here, and I just have a pulled muscle, and I'm freaking out. And so I kind of laughed at myself and was grateful that I had the tools, first of awareness, and second that I had done this time tripping thing, and that I had some power in this space.
Right.
Prior to that, before I went into Peter's program, I didn't think I had any power in the pain space. Well, I do. And so I stopped, and I long, deep breathing, and you know what? I stopped fighting with the pain. Wow. I just allowed the pain to be what it was, thinking it's information in the system's trying to process it, get the mind out of the way, breathe, right? And I did that, and you know what happened? That pain was gone in 5 minutes. Gone.
That's amazing. So, yeah, I can say, I can so relate to that because, if you think about it, exactly the way it happened. And so when you are experiencing pain, your mindset changed. When we talk about, if someone has this pain, what can they do?
Yes. Love, that's a perfect question after what we just talked about. So there's a hierarchy to healing. There's an actual hierarchy. First, the nervous system. Then we want a sense of some kind of connection to ourself, to another person, to higher power, some kind of connection. Then we can learn. Then we can reason. But if I'm freaked out, I actually don't have access to my prefrontal cortex for the reasoning part of the brain. I'm just in the back brain, freaking out, fight, flight, shut down, one of those, freeze. So the first thing I have to do is notice I'm dysregulated, I'm activated, my nervous system's upset, I'm in sympathetic, and that's kind of what the state of the nervous system is at that point. And my job there is to breathe, because the breath, the mind follows the breath, and the nervous system takes its cue from what the breath's doing, which I think is a really powerful teaching and tool, because when I have a sharp pain and I do that, what am I doing? I'm holding my breath.
Right.
That's what we do and so we're telling the nervous system it's in fight, flight, protect mode, where you can't protect and connect at the same time. And the second rung on the hierarchy of healing is connection. So the first thing you have to do is let the breath out. It's use the breath as a tool to let the nervous system know that it's actually safe and it's not under threat and it doesn't need to protect. And it might take 3 minutes of long, deep breathing, or just left nostril, long, deep breathing through the left nostril. Just nice, calm, long, deep breath with that exhale as long or longer than the inhale. Mm-hmm. And then you'll feel the nervous system start to calm. And then you'll feel, then you're back connected, and you're not, because what I do when I get like that all activated, I tend to just like dissociate. I'm just like, I try and get out of my body as fast as possible. That's my old habit. I don't want to be here, and whoop. So as soon as I bring in the breath and the nervous system starts to calm, then I reconnect to myself. I might reach out to another person and co-regulate. We help each other. Or I'm just maybe send a prayer out to my higher power kind of thing. But I'm connected to me, and I'm connected to, something, a friend, the creator of all that is, something like that. Yeah. Then I can, what happened? What just happened? Then I can reason with like, what was that? That pain or whatever. What caused that? So understanding that there's a hierarchy to healing, first regulate, then connect, a sense of belonging, and then you can reason your way through. That's a helpful understanding. Yeah.
All right, great. I love that. Because I know when I've had my struggles, the secret of the things that have happened to me, I remember what a therapist said to me about focus on your breathing. There's all different ways to focus on your breathing. There's box breathing. There's the 4-4-4 method, where you inhale, where you're smelling the roses, exhale, and you inhale for 4, smelling the roses. Exhale, you're blowing out the birthday candles. And I haven't reached this point yet. You're supposed to blow it out for like 4 minutes or something like that.
Wow, that's a very long exhale.
A long exhale. But so the whole goal is just, similar, is that you're in the moment, you realize you're in the moment, and then you start you step away, you're focused on your breathing. And, what I really like about how this whole topic is you're not only helping people with their healing journey, process, but you've also experienced it too. So you want to just quickly touch base on your experience and what what happened to you. I think people would totally get that.
Oh, what happened to me with my pain situation?
Yeah. Like when you talk about where you were when you were when you have experience with your pain, because you talk about having something happen when you were a lot younger.
Yeah, so I had a history really of chronic pain,
right?
Starting with my childhood, and I didn't know what to call it, and nobody taught me how to breathe. But I learned to live with it, and so that when I really actually hurt myself, because I actually broke a vertebrae in my back, in my low back, when I was 14. At that point, I was so used to kind of a fairly high level of pain, like all the time, that I walked away from that accident. It hurt, but I walked away from the accident, and because I walked away, even though I was in pain, I was physically able to walk, and I figured I was okay. I had a broken fifth lumbar. Yeah. But I just give you an example of how much of a kind of a background chronic pain situation I had by the time that accident happened. I just didn't even realize I hurt, but it wasn't like, I remember going home from that accident, and I'm walking, and I told my dad, I fell off my horse that day and kind of hurt my back, and we never had an X-ray because I was so disaffective emotionally. I didn't, Dad, I really hurt myself. That was just not in my world. It wasn't safe to emote and really express myself. It just wasn't safe. So I didn't. And I really, it was too bad because nobody he didn't catch the danger there. And I walked around with a broken vertebra for 14 years before it had surgery.
Yeah.
And then I had surgery, and then the pain got crazy bad because then the opiates and the benzodiazepines started, and it was just the surgery. Just anyway, it was a mess. The doctors didn't know. They knew that chronic pain was a thing, but they didn't know how to treat it, and they didn't really understand what's happening in the brain. They just didn't have that understanding. So they gave me opiates and any anxiety medicine to cope with it, and said, you have to learn to live with this for the rest of your life. You're going to be in level 7 out of 10 pain 24/7 for the rest of your life in a wheelchair when you're 40. Learn to live with it. And I was like shocked. I was like, this is my life. And but I had a science background. And that was my saving grace. I really felt. And I knew that scientific paradigms shifted, and I knew that the doctors were operating in a scientific paradigm, and they shift. And I also understood from that same statement, because I was trained as a basic science researcher. I knew from that statement, you will be. I knew that they'd forgotten their basic science, because science is not about facts, it's about probabilities. So that was a mistake when they said that, and many of them said it. That was a mistake they made. They should have said, the probability is. They didn't say that. They said, you will. So they didn't leave any room for hope. And this is why I come on these podcasts again and again and again to bring this message, because that's a dishonest statement. It's just it's a misunderstanding of the territory, and you have to leave the window open for hope. You can't be so sure of yourself that you know everything and sit in front of a patient and say that. That's why I say it's a misunderstanding. They made a mistake.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you see, so and finally, and I kept, and I knew that was happening, and I knew I was going to have to look outside of the scientific paradigm, the current understanding. I knew I was going to have to look outside of that to find my answer or have something else with it. And when I found Dr. Peter Prescott many years later, he was trained as a Western doctor, but he also had Eastern training. So he was a Qigong healer, and he understood. I got into like all kinds of yoga and meditate. I was already doing meditation, and I got into massage therapy and Qigong and Reiki and acupuncture and lots of other things that kind of looking around. But Peter put it all together in his program, where he brought in Eastern and Western and some cognitive behavioral therapy, and he really understood the nature of chronic pain and went right in there. And I mean, like I said, that question that he asked, "What are you doing to contribute to your pain?" That was his lead. That was his lead in, and he had me, because I realized that I might have some power here, where prior to that, I didn't think I had any power at all.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's amazing. Almost time to wrap it up. And I feel like you and I could probably have a conversation for like 2 hours rather than just 45 minutes. There are a lot of, what I really like is talk about what pain is and living in the moment, and, what are you doing for your pain and power. And then you also talk about your experience, so you have empathy for those who are suffering from chronic pain, and you also breathing and things that people can do. Like you're young, I'm probably mispronouncing it. Yoga, gratitude journal I saw in there, meditation. These are all things that I have also started doing. It's kind of new in the process. Our lives get so busy and a lot goes on that I think that people can kind of forget that you can take some moments, those moments where you can participate in activities that are going to definitely help you. So do you have any final words about chronic pain? Anyone who's suffering, maybe feels that the situation is hopeless?
Yeah, I get that question a lot because this is a space where we definitely touch into hopelessness. So that you have to ask for help. It's one of the hardest things that a chronic pain patient can ask someone in chronic pain. And why is that? Because we've been let down so many times. The letdown, disappointment of, oh my God, it's here again. And the judgment, you heard the judgment, like, oh my God, here's the pain still here, right? Yeah. There's so much letdown there. It can be, it doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm just bringing it in and recognizing and acknowledging everyone listening. It can be very difficult to ask for help because, maybe they'll say no. And we don't want more letdown, right? So ask for help, right? That's a really important. You really want to get with doctors that understand integrated pain management. You want to get in a pain management program. I'm a great coach in that space. I'm not a doctor or a therapist, but I'm a great coach in that space because I know the way and I know the language and I understand the physiology and all that stuff. I'm just not a doctor, right, or a therapist. So ask for help. And then the other thing is you really need to allow yourself the luxury of opening your mind. I know for me, it was like, this is my lot and this is where I'm stuck. And oh my God, how am I going to get out? And it doesn't feel good. And it still doesn't feel good. And I don't know how to get out. And it was just this, very difficult space. And my own belief system got in the way. And I'll give you an example of how I opened a place that opened my mind. I had migraines for 7 years in this 40-year chronic pain experience. Migraines 7 years, and I couldn't. And they just hit me, and I couldn't find the pattern of like when it just that the only pattern was there was no pattern. And it was devastating. It was really difficult. And I remember the last time I had a migraine, I was lying in my bed. It's a dark room. It's quiet. Thank goodness I had a place in the house that was like that. And I was, fighting the pain, right? And I heard this. I swear it was God, divine voice, whatever you want to call that. Elizabeth, clearly what you're doing is not working. Why not try a contrary action? And I was like, okay, what would that even be? Right. Okay. And the contrary action was stop fighting with the pain. Yeah. Stop, right? And I was like, okay, like you got me. And I stopped fighting. And I never had another migraine. That headache, that migraine went away. My nervous system calmed down. I never had another migraine. I still had more work to do around clearing the chronic pain habit that I had. But man, that was a powerful teaching. Yeah, so try a contrary action. Whatever you're doing is clearly not working, so try something different. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So if people want to buy your book, or reach out to you, how do they go about doing that?
Sure, yes, they can. You can find my book on Amazon, but you can also find me on my website, which is Elizabeth, with a hyphen between my first and last name, Elizabeth-Kipp.com, Kipp. And if you want an autographed copy, you can order it through my website. You can book a session with me. I've got a free 15-minute consultation, so you can sign up for that. I do ancestor clearing, I do addiction recovery, and I do coaching for people that are trying to heal from chronic pain. That's my area. Elizabeth-Kipp.com. You can find me on social media too.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I already know two people I'm going to refer to you for that consult. Maybe more. I really want to thank you so much for being on the Healing Light podcast. I really appreciate you. You've opened my eyes. I'm sure you've opened my listeners' eyes, and a completely new way of thinking about chronic pain. And I believe that you really give people hope. I think people need hope in the world. They really need to feel like they have something that they can believe in. And I believe that you offer that. So thank you very much. Any last thoughts?
Well, I would like to say one thing. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I give 20% of the responsibility for my healing to the entire health community, like doctors, nurses, therapists, whatever. And the other 80% is between me and the healing intelligence in every cell in my body. So understand that the 20 percenters, they're giving you guidance. And it's up to me, the 80% is up to me and this innate intelligence to apply the information that the guidance gives me, to apply it and then get out of the way and let the healing happen, that we have this incredible healing intelligence inside of us. Yeah, that's how I break that down. Hopefully that's helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you once again. I will wish everyone a very wonderful Sunday evening and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kayla.